Hello everyone. This is the third part of the video Contemporary South Asia. In the second part, I have explained about Bangladesh, the birth of Bangladesh, and the experience of democracy and dictatorship in Bangladesh. Now, in this part, I'm going to explain about two more neighbors of India and important nations in South Asian region. And these two nations are going to be Sri Lanka and Maldives, both falling in the Indian Ocean. Okay, so as you can see in this map, the location of Sri Lanka in the Indian Ocean. The water body here is called the Gulf of Mannar, and the Park Strait. The Park Strait joins Sri Lanka with India. So the ties between India and Sri Lanka is very old. The ancient name of Sri Lanka you might be knowing is Ceylon, Ceylon, is Ceylon, and the population of Sri Lanka is not very large population. According to 2011 census, the population of Sri Lanka was only 20.3 million. Okay, so not a very large population, but this population is very diverse. So the main ethnic group in Sri Lanka, the majority population in Sri Lanka is Sinhala. They are about 74% of the population. Apart from the Sinhalas, there are Hindus also, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, the Malays and the Moors. Okay, now religion wise, if you see, then Buddhism is the main religion in Sri Lanka. And apart from Buddhism, there are Hindus, Muslims, and Christians. The primary activity, the uh, uh, primary occupation in Sri Lanka is agriculture, and Sri Lanka is on the top in the production of rice. So Sri Lanka is right from the beginning, right from its independence, Sri Lanka has been a democratic country. So Sri Lanka got independence in 1948, that is 4th of February 1948. And since its independence, Sri Lanka had been a democratic country. If we talk about the political system in Sri Lanka has a unitary government, and it has a presidential government. Okay, so it has maintained democracy since its independence, but suffered a very prolonged civil war. So what were the reasons of this civil war? For to know this, we need to go into the background a bit. Okay, so as I already told you that the Sinhalas were in majority in Sri Lanka, and they tried to impose a kind of majoritarian rule in Sri Lanka. So apart from Sinhalas, there were Indian Tamils, which were very large number. Indian Tamils, then you had Sri Lankan Tamils. Fine. So Sri Lankan, the Sinhala community was imposing a majoritarian rule in Sri Lanka, and the politics and the society in Sri Lanka was dominated by these Sinhalas. One example of this is the Act of 1956. So in this act, Sinhala was made to be the official language of Sri Lanka. Buddhism was made the official religion of Sri Lanka, and it was also said that the Sinhala applicants would be given importance in all the university and administrative positions. Okay, so there were many such examples through which the Tamils felt neglected and alienated, and this led to the rise of a militant Tamil insurgency in Sri Lanka. and many Tamil militant organizations were formed, out of which one very significant and important and powerful organization was the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam in 1983. So since 1983, a civil war had started between the LTTE and the Sri Lankan forces. Okay, now if you see, this LTTE is representing the interest of the Tamils. Okay, so there are Indian Tamils, they are representing the interest of the Indian Tamils. Indian Tamils means those Tamils who had migrated from India to Sri Lanka and had settled over there, but they were not getting equal rights in Sri Lanka. Okay, so because of their connect with India, they pressurized in India, pressure was exerted on the government, on the Indian government, to help the Tamils in Sri Lanka get their rights. Fine. So for this purpose, the Indian government started negotiating with the Sri Lankan government. Now let's once also see the areas which were where the Tamils wanted their control. They were leading a secessionist movement. So towards the north, here, almost this entire area was being demanded by the Sri Lankans, by the LTTE, and they wanted to secede, to break away Sri Lanka, to break these areas away from Sri Lanka and found a Tamil Eelam. Tamil Eelam. Now, what is a Tamil Eelam? Eelam is a Tamil word which means state. So they wanted to establish a separate Tamil state by breaking away these areas from Sri Lanka, and that's why they were fighting with the Sri Lankan forces. Okay, so now the Indian government started helping these Tamil insurgent groups, especially the LTTE, in their effort to get their rights. Fine. So then India started negotiating with, for this purpose, India started negotiating with the Sri Lankan government. Okay, so as to get some rights, equal rights for the Tamils in Sri Lanka. This resulted in a peace accord between India and Sri Lanka. This is called the Indo-Sri Lankan Peace Accord. It was signed on 29th July 1987. Now in this civil war in Sri Lanka, this peace accord is very important. It was signed between the Indian Prime Minister at that time, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, and the Sri Lankan President Jayawardene. Okay, so it was signed between Mr. Jayawardene and Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. Fine. So according to this peace accord, the Sri Lankan government agreed to give a lot of concessions to the Tamils, and many of the demands of the Tamils were accepted. And one more thing was decided. It was decided that the Indian peacekeeping forces will be sent to Sri Lanka, will come to Sri Lanka, and what will they do? They will try to stabilize the situation. They will try to neutralize the LTT and bring peace in the country. Okay, so the Indian troops were sent to Sri Lanka in 1987. IPKF, Indian Peacekeeping Forces. They are called IPKF in short. So Indian peacekeeping forces were sent to Sri Lanka in 1987. But what eventually happened was very disheartening. Eventually, the Indian forces got involved into war with the LTT itself. So the LTT thought that they had come to help us to get rights for us from Sri Lankan government, and now they have started fighting with us. Okay, and on the other hand, the Sri Lankan government never liked the presence of the Indian troops on its soil, but obvious, they treated it as an interference of India in their internal matters. Okay, so the IPKF lost support from all the sides, and in a very humiliating manner, the IPKF had to retreat back to India in 1989 without attaining its objective. What was its objective? Its objective was to neutralize LTT in Sri Lanka and to bring peace in Sri Lanka, to give the Tamils, to get the rights for Tamil people in Sri Lanka. Okay, but none of these objectives were achieved, could be achieved, and IPKF had to come back to India. This happened in 1989. Okay, now this picture you see, this one, he was Villupillai Prabhakaran, was the chief of LTTE, Prabhakaran. Okay, now when this LTT and IPKF was fighting in Sri Lanka, uh, some of the Villupillai Prabhakaran felt cheated in a way, and he decided to take revenge of from the Indian forces from India. And as a revenge, you all know that LTTE got Rajiv Gandhi assassinated. Okay, so that's why I had put both these pictures here so that you can understand the link. So that was because the Rajiv Gandhi had sent IPKF to Sri Lanka. Okay, and with what intentions it was sent and what happened. Okay, so this happened. Now after this thing that IPKF was pulled back from Sri Lanka, then Scandinavian countries, Norway and Iceland, they started mediating between the Sri Lankan government and the LTTE to pacify, to bring peace. Fine. So many of the attempts were made, many rounds of negotiations were held, but this peace process could not bring anything. And ultimately, the Sri Lankan government launched a massive offensive against the LTTE in 2006. And by 2009, May 2009, they captured all the areas that were held by the LTT. The areas that I had showed you on the map just now, which the LTT wanted to convert into a Tamil Elam. They were actually running their whole governance there. Fine. And it was not a small area, it was around 15,000 square kilometer territory, which was held by the LTTE. So the last post when it was captured, last post was captured on 16th May 2019, and on 17th May, LTTE had accepted its defeat. And 19th May 2009, Prabhakaran was killed. He was killed when he was escaping from the area where the fight was going on between the LTT and the Sri Lankan forces, and he was escaping from there in an ambulance when he was killed. Okay, so after this, the civil war came to an end and peace was brought back into Sri Lanka. But the most astonishing thing here is that despite so much of civil war, for such a prolonged civil war, you can see from 2003 till, from 1983 till 2009. Okay, so despite such a long civil war, Sri Lanka registered a very nice growth in the GDP. Okay, so it had the highest per capita GDP. It controlled the growth rate of population. It was the first country in the region to liberalize its economy, and over and above all, they were successful in maintaining a democratic political system. That is the most important thing. Okay, so this is the story, this is the political history of Sri Lanka, and I'll come back to Sri Lanka when we will be discussing our relations with our India's relations with our neighbors. Now I quickly go to another country in our neighborhood, which is Maldives. Now Maldives, you can see on this map, this is Maldives. The capital city is Malé. Maldives is towards the southeast side of India in the Indian Ocean. Okay. Now Maldives is made, this word is made of two words, two Sanskrit words, that is Mala and Dweep. Now Mala is a garland and Dweep is an island. So as you can see the shape, it is a, it looks like a garland of islands. So that's from where it gets its name. So Maldives was a sultanate for a very long time and became a protectorate state of the British in 1887. Now, what is a protectorate state? This word. What is a protectorate state? A protectorate state is one which is autonomous in itself, but it is its foreign relations, its security, and all the other things are protected by a strong power against any third party. So Britain became the protecting nation of Maldives. Fine. So Maldives becomes the protectorate state of Britain. So from Britain, it gained independence in 1965, and after 3 years of independence, it became a republic in 1968. Ibrahim Nasir was the first president. Maldives adopted a presidential form of government. So Ibrahim Nasir was the first president, and the second president was Mahmoud Abdul Gayoom. Now this name is very important because he dominated the politics of Maldives for 30 years. How? After every 5 years, like he got elected for 6 consecutive terms. But how the elections, how would you call it an election? It was a single party referendum. Means that only his party was electing him in a referendum for 30 years consecutively. Okay. So if anyone would rule for 30 years, he would rule the country in his own manners. People started protesting against his rule. So there were widespread protests against his government and the style of functioning of Abdul Gayoom. So he had to initiate reforms. From 2002, he had initiated some reforms. So some other political parties and all also came into existence. A new constitution came in August 2008. And as per this new constitution, a multi-candidate, multi-party elections were held in October 2008. This was the first multi-party, multi-candidate election in Maldives. And after this election, Nasheed became the first democratically elected president of Maldives. Now, who was Nasheed? Nasheed was a political activist. Okay, so this is Abdul Gayoom, and this is Nasheed. In the pictures you can see. So Nasheed became the president in 2008 and he ruled Maldives till 2012. What happened in 2012? In 2012, there were again opposition against the government of Nasheed. Why people were opposing? People were opposing because Nasheed had sacked a judge of a criminal court because that judge had not been conducting investigations into the crimes of some people done during the regime of Gayoom. Understood? तो यहाँ पे क्या है? यहाँ पे एक पॉलिटिकल राइवलरी की महक नहीं आ रही आपको कि इन्होंने एक जज को सैक किया, उसको अरेस्ट किया क्योंकि वो जज इनके जो प्रीडिसेसर थे उनके साथियों के अगेंस्ट इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं कर रहे थे. अब इन्होंने उसको सैक किया तो जो ऑपोजिशन पार्टीज थी उन्होंने उनके अगेंस्ट रिवोल्ट करनी शुरू कर दी. एंड दिस वाज जॉइंड बाय द पुलिस एंड मिलिट्री. एंड दिस अल्टीमेटली इट इज, मतलब नशीद ने भी ये बाद में कहा that I was made to resign at gunpoint by police and military. Okay, so it was a kind of coup in which Nasheed had to hand over power to his vice president. This happened in 2012 and in 2013 there were election which was highly rigged election जिसको कहा जाए सारी rules regulations की धज्जियां उड़ा दी गई थी उस election में और Yamin was elected as the president. ये है Yamin. Okay, he is Yamin. Fine. Now, Yamin was elected as the president. Now, the government of Yamin is said to be the most autocratic, authoritative and despotic government in Maldives. Yamin got arrested all his political opponents एंड इंक्लूडिंग 2 प्रेसिडेंट्स, फॉर्मर प्रेसिडेंट। तो इन्होंने गयूम को भी अरेस्ट करवा दिया, जबकि गयूम इनके हाफ ब्रदर लगते थे रिलेशन में। ओके, और इन्होंने नशीद को तो हटवा ही दिया था। ओके, तो इन दोनों को अरेस्ट करवाया। नशीद को केवल हटवाया नहीं था, इन 2015 इनके अगेंस्ट एक ट्रेटर का चार्ज लगाकर और इनको 3 इयर्स की के लिए इम्प्रिजनमेंट, 13 इयर्स और 3 इयर्स, आई एम कंफ्यूज, के लिए इम्प्रिजनमेंट भी इनको दिया गया था। ओके, लेकिन ये वहाँ से मालदीव से ये 2016 में ये निकल गए थे और इन्होंने असाइलम ले लिया था। ओके, तो जो यामीन थे, इन्होंने 2 फॉर्मर प्रेसिडेंट्स को अरेस्ट करवाया। इन्होंने अपने वाइस प्रेसिडेंट को अरेस्ट कर लिया, क्योंकि इनके अपने वाइस प्रेसिडेंट इनके अगेंस्ट शायद षड्यंत्र कर रहे थे, इंट्रोड्यूस में इन्वॉल्व थे, और उनको अरेस्ट करके उनके ऊपर उनको 33 इयर्स का इम्प्रिजनमेंट दिया था। और जो बाकी पॉलिटिकल ओपोनेंट्स थे वो तो उनका तो वो तो बहुत ही मामूली चीज़ हो गई इसके सामने। तो ये थे। तो इनके अगेंस्ट भी फिर जो है जो डेमोक्रेटिक प्रोसेस था दैट वाज कंटिन्यूइंग। सो इन 2018 इलेक्शंस में क्या किया, जितनी भी ऑपोजिशन पार्टीज थी इंक्लूडिंग नशीद इन एग्जाइल, ये उस समय श्रीलंका में थे 2000 इलेक्शंस के पहले, उस टाइम पे। तो इन्होंने सारी ऑपोजिशन पार्टीज, ऑल ऑफ देम केम टुगेदर एंड दे पुट अप देयर जॉइंट कैंडिडेट इब्राहिम मोहम्मद सोली। ये सोली who is the present president of Maldives. Okay, इनको put up किया, and in the 2018 September elections, Solih won by 58% of the popular votes. And after that, Nasheed also has come back to Maldives now, and it is now a presidential sort of the government. With it is said to be a comeback of democracy in Maldives. Actually, the elections of September 2008 was said to be a referendum on democracy, कि अब मालदीव्स क्या चुनेगा, एक डेमोक्रेटिक गवर्नमेंट चुनेगा या फिर किसी एक डिक्टेटर को फिर एक ये ओपन फोरम दे देंगे। अच्छा, एक और बात यहाँ पर समझ लीजिए कि जो यामीन की गवर्नमेंट थी दैट वाज वेरी क्लोज टू चाइना। एक तरह से ऐसा कहा जाता था कि यामीन की गवर्नमेंट हैड टेकन अ लॉट ऑफ लोन्स फ्रॉम चाइना, और ऐसा कहा जा रहा था कि चाइना, यामीन ने मालदीव्स को चाइना के पास मॉर्गेज रखा हुआ है, एंड चाइना वाज ट्राइंग टू फुलफिल इट्स एम्बिशंस थ्रू मालदीव्स। जो इनका वन बेल्ट वन रोड इनिशिएटिव था, मालदीव उसका एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है, बीइंग इन द इंडियन ओशन, बिकॉज इट विल गिव अ पैसेज टू चाइना connecting Indian Ocean to Central Asia. Okay, so for China, Maldives was important, and that's why China was investing too much in Maldives. Okay, which was a matter of concern for India as well. Okay, now the government of Soli and Nasheed both, they have very good ties with India, and they have clearly said that India is more important to us, though China will continue to be our friend. Okay, तो ये इस समय एक आप समझ सकते हैं कि क्या इस समय माहौल है। इंडिया इज वेरी रिलैक्स दैट द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ सोली हैज कम बैक, and this government has come back in Maldives, and democracy has come back in Maldives. Okay, so this much for this video. In the next video I'll be discussing about conflicts and cooperation between India and its neighbors, starting our conflicts with our very good neighbor Pakistan. Fine. So till then, keep reading this part. Have a nice time and stay healthy, stay fit. Thank you. Bye-bye.